In the heart of Accra, behind tall gates and high walls, lived a woman who had everything except joy. Her name was Deborah Martins, a respected business mogul in the oil and property world. People bowed when she walked into a room. Politicians called her for favors. But at home, behind the silence of her wealth, lived her daughter Naomi, her greatest treasure and her deepest pain. Naomi was 28. Brilliant, beautiful, polite, and disabled. She had been born with a spinal deformity that left her dependent on walking aids and sometimes a wheelchair. It hadn't stopped her from graduating top of her class or writing poetry that touched souls. But it stopped the world from seeing her. No suitor ever came. Not one. And it wasn't because of her disability alone. It was the whispers, the questions, the uncomfortable stares. In a society where many still saw physical disability as weakness or spiritual punishment, Naomi was pitied but never desired. And Deborah, though powerful, was helpless here. One quiet evening, Deborah watched Naomi from across the dinner table. Naomi ate slowly, her eyes downcast, the same way she had every night since her teenage years. The house echoed with a kind of silence that only money could afford, but none of it warmed Deborah's heart anymore. "Naomi," she said gently, "what do you want in life?" Naomi hesitated. Then she whispered, "To be loved." That night, Deborah made a decision. One that many would call outrageous. She would hire a man, any man desperate enough, to marry her daughter. Caleb Mensah was 32, the mechanic whose business had crumbled after a fire destroyed his workshop. He owed more than he could repay. The bank had seized his father's farmland as collateral. He was sinking, and fast. When Deborah summoned him through a discreet contact, he didn't know what to expect. But when he sat before her in that cold marble living room and heard her offer, he blinked, stunned. "You want me to marry your daughter?" "Yes. She's disabled, but she is everything a man could ask for, if he can see beyond her legs." "And you'll pay my debts?" "More. I'll give you a house. A business. A fresh start. But you must marry her. And treat her with dignity." Caleb's first instinct was to say no. But desperation made pride weak. And when he saw Naomi, soft-spoken, beautiful, reading on a balcony, something inside him softened. Not love. Not yet. But something. He agreed. The wedding was quiet. Few guests. Fewer smiles. Naomi wore a gold dress, sitting gracefully in her wheelchair. Caleb stood stiff beside her, unsure of himself, unsure of everything. And though Naomi noticed the tension, she said nothing. The first weeks were awkward. Caleb was kind but distant. He slept in the guest room. Naomi cooked for him, served him tea, asked questions, tried. But he gave short answers and tired smiles. She would often cry quietly after he left the room. One night, Naomi sat in her room and wrote in her journal, "He does not look at me like a wife. He does not touch me like I matter. But I will not beg for love. Maybe, in time, he will see me." But time was not kind. One rainy night, Naomi had a health crisis. She fell while trying to bathe alone. Caleb heard the crash, ran into the bathroom, and found her on the floor, crying, shaking. He panicked. Not because of the money or the arrangement, but because he was afraid to lose her. He carried her to the car, rushed to the hospital, and stayed the entire night. That moment shifted something deep within him. He held her hand as she slept and noticed, for the first time, her strength, her calm, her patience. And suddenly, the guilt began to rot his soul. The confession. Weeks after Naomi recovered, Caleb sat beside her in the garden. He hadn't touched his tea. "Naomi, I need to tell you the truth. I didn't marry you for love. I was paid to do it. Your mother hired me because I was drowning in debt. But now, after knowing you, I don't want the money. I want you." Naomi didn't cry. She looked at him, her voice steady. "I always knew something wasn't right. But I hoped that maybe you'd choose me for real." Then she stood up slowly with her crutch, turned, and walked away. Naomi disappeared. The next morning, her bags were gone. A note left behind read, "I'm not a project. I'm a person." Caleb broke down. His new house, his new car, they felt like prisons now. For weeks, he tried to find her. Called her old friends. Visited old family contacts. Nothing. So he began to write letters. One every week. He wrote what he couldn't say. About his shame. About how she changed his heart. About how he painted now her face, her smile, her strength. He mailed them. Even though he didn't know if she would read them. 1 year later, Caleb stood outside his modest shop in a small village. He looked older. Tired but alive. Then he saw a car pull up. A woman stepped out. It was Naomi. Walking slowly but confidently. "I read every letter," she said. "I needed time. Not to punish you, but to heal. And now, I'm ready to love, with my eyes wide open." Naomi and Caleb now run a rehabilitation center for disabled women, funded partly by Deborah, who has since stepped back from business. Naomi is the heart. Caleb is the hands. And together, they rebuild more than just bodies, they